Catholic of Rome here. This is my reattempt at answering AZ Superman's question number 12. You wrote me back and said that I didn't quite answer the question, and I appreciate your criticism. I do definitely want to be clear, and I don't want to waste any of your time. Some things you said in there, you mentioned the book of Job and criticized some of the verses that I quoted. And I hope that I answer some of them in this video, but if not, I'm planning on making another video in response to a comment posted by, I believe his name's pronounced Professor MTH, P-R-O-F-M-T-H, and he's got some things, video in 3 parts about the book of Job, so I'm going to post a video response on that. So your original question was, what action would be evil if committed by God? Again, like I said, this is a really pretty tough question, which is probably why I didn't answer it directly. It was tough to kind of understand exactly what you were asking. So I'm trying to figure out what you mean. I think I got it. One meaning is that you're kind of just challenging some beliefs about Christians, and you're kind of implying sarcastically that Christians don't understand. They don't think that anything God can do is evil, and so, but obviously all these things are terrible, so what could possibly be worse than that? So this means that God is not who we believe that He is, which would be a disproof for Christianity. It's a terrible inconsistency. If this is what you're kind of implying, maybe part of what you're implying, but if this is all you really mean, I kind of feel like that's pretty rude, and you're probably not going to find a lot of clear questions. So I assume that you are actually more curious than that, because you are respectful, and I appreciate that, and I think that, like I said, what you're doing is great for a lot of people. So my second reason or understanding of your question is that you're asking, can God commit evil? So in other words, as Christians, do we believe that God is capable of evil? So if this is right, I think I was kind of on the right track, but I do see why it wasn't a direct answer to your question. So I hope now I'm on the right track. You mentioned in your first video that God created all these terrible things, did these terrible things, but Christians still claim that God is all good. So if these things are good, then what is evil? So I see the contradiction made. So the question is, can God commit evil? So let's look at a definition of evil that I found on dictionary.com. It's right in front of me. It's on the internet. It's quick. It's easy. If anybody has a problem with that, take it up with dictionary.com. So evil is defined as morally wrong or bad, immoral, wicked. Second definition would be harmful or injurious. And 3 would be characterized or accompanied by misfortune or suffering. So all these things, there's a lot more, but they all kind of generally say the same thing over again. You kind of understand what it means. If you want to go further, we can define what moral is, kind of argue what that is. Same website. Moral is of, pertaining to, or concerned with the principles or rules of right conduct, or the distinction between right and wrong. So we can restate your original question, can God commit evil, as can God do something that is morally wrong or bad? And like I said, if all those things that you said were actually good, then what would be morally wrong or bad? So we have to understand that God is a supreme being. If He did create the universe, which would kind of implicate his supreme and omnipotent powers, so He's kind of the boss. In the same way, if you were to found a company or business, you get to set the rules. In the same way, God defines what is morally right or wrong, and so defines what is evil. Normally the definition of evil, which is morally wrong or bad, is with respect to what God commands us to do. So right is with God and wrong is against God. If this is a good enough explanation, we can stop there, but I feel like that's not really fair for most people. Most people kind of see that as unfair, and if I don't give further explanation, I see it kind of as unfair too. So back to Job for a bit. God told Job of all the things that he did. And he created the universe, and so he got to make the rules. He's the big man. Sometimes they seem unfair, but we're infinitely weaker and more ignorant than God. So we have to trust that he knows what he's doing. And so when he does these things, they're normally considered evil to us, because when we kill or we cause pain to other people, it hurts them. So this goes against what God commanded us, and I think that we can all agree that these things are usually pretty bad. Nobody likes to suffer, and that's basically not nice. So sometimes when God causes pain to innocent people, he's testing their faith. And this doesn't really seem fair either. But God does want us to succeed. He wants us to prove to him that we love him and will suffer like Christ did, because when we do harm, it is definitely an evil. Other times he uses us as examples to show other people, kind of like what Job did. Now, I won't get too far into this because I plan on making another one further getting into Job and defending the book of Job. But he does want other people to see how we should handle pain and suffering. So he wants us to take the pain and suffering on earth and offer it to him as our best attempt at paying our debt that we earn in sin. This isn't about our ability to pay for our own debt. A lot of people may argue about Christ, and indeed Christ was the only one who can indeed pay for our debt. But even though it's too great for us to pay, God still wants us to show him that we are honest, and we want to try to pray and be faithful to him while we are in pain and we're suffering. But for instance, the Noah's Ark example you gave, God gave all those people their lives, and so going by the big man kind of thing, he more or less has every right to take them away. But he would only do so if they were indeed wicked and evil. We have to trust that he understands who is evil and who is not. People that are bad, God would understand that they don't really deserve their lives. God can judge that. Now the people that were good, because some good people did die in that case, they were most likely rewarded with heaven, and so it doesn't really seem too terrible. And they kind of fall into the category of suffering for Christ. In Noah's Ark's case, Christ wasn't around, but that was a principle that was understood. We needed to sacrifice some in order to show God that we love him. So back to my point, that God basically isn't capable of evil, because what defines evil depends totally on who's in charge and who made those rules. We're not allowed to hurt others, but sometimes God can see reasons that we can't, because he's omniscient. He knows everything. He can see all. He made us all. And so then he can take action to decide what is best. Viruses and diseases are usually trials and sufferings that people should offer up. I should offer it up to God and show that they are willing to suffer and that they still are faithful to him. These also present challenges to faithful people who aren't suffering to go out and help their fellow man. These present opportunities for these good people to show their faith through their good works. So I hope this kind of answers your question about what action can God commit that what would be evil. The answer, none, because God sets the rules and is infinitely wiser than we are. I think that's what I was getting at with the book of Job, but I definitely see where I missed that. Let me know if I still kind of missed the point, or if you see any holes in my logic. I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope I'm not wasting your time with missing out on your questions. This is Catholic of Rome, out.